Why does the most famous voice of the 20th century crack and tremble? Why would a producer leave in the sound of a man clearing his throat or stumbling over a word? Was it a mistake when the king of rock and roll started laughing in the middle of a song about unbearable loneliness? These are not errors. They are clues. They are the moments when the curtain was pulled back and you could hear the man, not the myth. They were left in on purpose. Each one tells a story. Each one is a tiny, heartbreaking piece of the truth. Number 23. Was that laugh a mistake or a confession? Elvis recorded Are You Lonesome Tonight on April 4th, 1960. It was a late night session in Nashville. The master take, the one originally released, was perfect. The famous long version was Take 5, an outtake that wasn't officially released until 1980. The woman whose high harmony vocal supposedly made Elvis crack up was Cissy Houston, Whitney Houston's mother. The song is a somber spoken word ballad. It's theatrical. It's about a man sitting in an empty room, overwhelmed by regret and sadness. Elvis delivers the lines with the gravity of a Shakespearean actor. He's deep in character. The lights are low. The mood is heavy. Then, during the spoken bridge, something breaks. I wonder if you're lonesome tonight, he says, his voice thick with emotion. He continues describing the scene on a stage, comparing their failed love to a play. And then he sees a bare-breasted woman, or at least that's what he's saying. The line was supposed to be, do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there? Instead, he sings, do you gaze at your bald head and wish you had hair? He tries to stifle it. A chuckle escapes, then a full laugh. He can't stop. The professionals in the band play on, perfectly straight, but Elvis is gone. He's just a guy in a room who messed up and thinks it's hilarious. They left this take in the vault for 2 decades. But when it finally came out, it became a phenomenon. Why? Because it's more real than the perfect version. The perfect version is a performance. It's Elvis playing the part of a lonely man. The laughing version is a man trying to play a part and failing. The laughter doesn't cancel out the sadness of the lyrics. It magnifies it. It's the sound of a man trying to keep it together and losing the battle. It's the nervous laughter that comes when a topic is too painful to address head on. In that moment, the song stops being about a character in a play and starts being about Elvis Presley himself. He's the biggest star in the world, just back from the army, surrounded by people, yet recording a song about profound isolation. The laugh is a crack in the facade. It's him telling us, maybe without meaning to, that sometimes the only response to overwhelming sadness is to laugh. The producer who eventually released it knew this. They knew we didn't just want to hear the king, we wanted to hear the man. Number 22. Why did the producer fake the ending? The recording of Suspicious Minds in January 1969 was a battle. Producer Chips Moman and Elvis argued over the song. Moman owned the publishing rights and insisted Elvis record it. Elvis's people from RCA didn't want him giving up publishing. The final master take, the one we all know, is Take 8. The song's signature false fade ending was not planned. It was an ad-lib by Moman at the mixing board to make the song longer and more dramatic for radio. The moment the song is reaching its climax, the horns are blasting, the background vocalists are soaring. It's a wall of sound. And then it starts to fade away. The song is over, you think. You reach for the radio dial. But wait, it comes roaring back, even more intense than before. Elvis is ad-libbing, pleading, his voice raw. Don't you know I'm caught in a trap? I can't walk out. The effect is startling. It feels like a technical error. A mistake by the engineer, but it's a deliberate choice. Why leave in such an artificial, jarring trick? Because it perfectly mirrors the theme of the song. The lyrics are about being trapped in a cycle of doubt and mistrust. You can't leave. You can't stay. The relationship is over, but then it comes roaring back to life. The false fade does exactly that. It makes the listener experience the same feeling of being trapped. You think you've escaped the song's emotional intensity, but you haven't. Pulls you back in, just like the toxic relationship in the lyrics. It's a flaw in the normal structure of a pop song. Pop songs are supposed to have a beginning, a middle, and a clean end. This one refuses to end cleanly. It lingers. It comes back to haunt you. Moment created a structural flaw that was so effective, so emotionally right, that it became the song's most iconic feature. It's a studio trick that feels more emotionally honest than a straightforward ending ever could. Number 21, Can You Hear the Room Where It Happened? Sam Phillips, the founder of Sun Records, believed in perfect imperfection. He didn't have the technology for pristine multi-track recordings in the early 1950s. He had one or two microphones in a small, oddly shaped room. The sound of that room, the slapback echo from the walls, is on every record he made. Elvis's first recording of That's All Right in July 1954 was not even intended as a commercial take. It was just him, Scotty Moore, and Bill Black fooling around during a break. Listen to any of the Sun recordings. Listen to Mystery Train or Good Rockin' Tonight. You can hear more than just the voice and the instruments. You can hear the space, you can hear the sound bouncing off the tiled ceiling and the hard walls of that little studio at 706 Union Avenue in Memphis. And Sam Phillips could have used sound dampening panels to create a drier, more controlled sound. He chose not to. He embraced the sound of the room. That echo, that slapback, wasn't just a technical artifact, it was an instrument in itself. This flaw, the audible presence of the recording space, gives the music an incredible sense of immediacy. It doesn't sound like it was made in a sterile laboratory. It sounds like it was made in a garage, a church hall, a real place where real people were making music. The echo adds excitement. It makes Elvis's voice sound bigger, more urgent. It makes the band sound like they're playing at a frantic Saturday night party. When Elvis sings well, that's all right, mama. His voice hits you, and then a split second later, the room answers back. It creates a ghost, a presence. It's the sound of history being made, and you can hear the walls that witnessed it. And Phillips knew that removing the sound of the room would be like removing the soul of the music. The imperfection of the space was the secret ingredient. Number 20 is that a stumble or a statement. In Heartbreak Hotel, recorded in January 1956, Elvis's voice is drenched in echo. The session took place at RCA's Nashville studio, and they tried to recreate the Sun studio sound by placing a speaker at one end of a long hallway and a microphone at the other. The final lyric of the song is famously bleak. They'll be so lonely they could die. On the record, Elvis sings, "Thy could die." There is a tiny, almost imperceptible hesitation, a slight stumble. It's a microsecond, but it's there. He doesn't deliver the line smoothly. There's a catch in his delivery, a hitch right before the final. Terrible word. It could have been fixed. They could have done another take. In 1956, pop vocals were supposed to be smooth, polished, and confident. Think of Perry Como or Frank Sinatra. A vocal stumble was an error to be corrected, but it was left in. Why? Because that little hesitation changes everything. A smooth delivery would sound like an actor reading a line. The stumble makes it sound like the singer is having trouble getting the word out. The word D is so final, so dark, that he can barely bring himself to say it. The flaw in his delivery conveys a genuine reluctance, a real emotional weight. He's not just telling you about the people in Heartbreak Hotel, he's feeling their despair. The hesitation makes the loneliness of the song feel real and personal. It's a moment of vulnerability. The polished pop idol disappears, and for a split second you hear a young man contemplating the bleakest of human emotions. The engineers and producer Steve Scholes recognized that this tiny imperfection was more powerful than any perfect take could ever be. It was the sound of truth. Number 19, What Does Exhaustion Sound Like? The 68 comeback special was a grueling, high-stakes affair. Elvis hadn't performed live in over 7 years. He was incredibly nervous. The famous black leather informal sessions were filmed over 2 days, June 27th and 29th, 1968. He performed 2 shows each day for an hour each under hot television lights, surrounded by a live audience. He was pouring every ounce of energy he had into it. Listen to the version of Trying to Get to You from the evening show on the 27th. This isn't the slick, controlled Elvis of the movie soundtracks. This is something else entirely. His voice is frayed. It's rough. On the high notes, you can hear it straining pushing against its own limits. He's not just singing the lyrics, he's living them. I've been running all the way, he sings, and you believe him because he sounds physically spent. He sounds like a man who's been running for years and is finally desperately trying to get back to where he belongs. This isn't a flaw in the sense of a mistake. It's the flaw of human limitation. His vocal cords are physical muscles and you can hear them fatiguing. The producers could have used a take from an earlier, fresher show. They could have edited it, smoothed it out. But they chose this one. They kept the raw, ragged sound of his voice because the exhaustion in his voice tells the story. It's the sound of his fight back from the creative wilderness of Hollywood. It's the sound of him reclaiming his own legacy. A perfect, effortless vocal would have been a lie. The whole point of the comeback was to show the world the raw, hungry performer was still there. The strain in his voice, the audible effort, was the proof. It was the most honest sound he had made in a decade. Number 18, why does he sing a wrong word? During the legendary Sun Sessions, Elvis was inventing a new musical language. He was fusing blues, country, and gospel. There were no rules. In his 1955 recording of the blues standard Mystery Train, he sings a line that is different from Junior Parker's 1953 original. Parker sang, "Train I ride, 16 coaches long." Elvis sings, "Train I ride, 16 coaches long." But then, on a later line, he sings, "Well, the train it left the station with 2 lights on behind." The word "it" is grammatically unnecessary. It's a folksy conversational tick. This might seem trivial, but in the world of professional recording, lyrical precision was expected. You sang the words as they were written. Changing or adding words was sloppy. It was an amateur move. Sam Phillips, however, was not looking for a polished professional. He was looking for an authentic, original voice. He encouraged Elvis to interpret songs, not just copy them. The addition of the word "it" in Mystery Train is a tiny flaw, a small deviation from the script, but it's a significant one. It makes the line feel less like a written lyric and more like a story being told. It's how someone might actually speak. It's conversational. It grounds the mystical, almost ghostly imagery of the song in a real Southern vernacular. Elvis isn't just singing a blues song, he's inhabiting it, making it his own, translating it through his own cultural filter. Sam Phillips kept these kinds of mistakes because they were the fingerprints of Elvis's unique style. They were the moments where he stopped being a singer covering a song and became an artist creating something new. The lyrical ad-libs, the stumbles, the personalizations, these were not flaws to be corrected. They were the very thing Phillips was searching for. Number 17, is that a pop or a punch? Early recording technology was sensitive and crude. Microphones in the 1950s were prone to popping, an explosive, distorted sound caused by a burst of air from the singer's mouth, especially on words with hard or B sounds. Engineers used pop filters and careful microphone placement to avoid this. A pop on a take was usually a reason to scrap it and start over. Listen to the opening of Arthur Big Boy Crudup's "My Baby Left Me," as recorded by Elvis in 1956. He hits the line, "Yes, my baby left me," with a percussive force. On the B of Bobby, there is a subtle but audible pop on the microphone. It's a tiny explosion of sound, a digital clip in modern terms. It is, by all technical standards, a flaw. It's the sound of the equipment being overloaded. So why is it there? Because the pop isn't just a technical glitch, it's an emotional punctuation mark. The song is aggressive, a raw piece of rockabilly blues. Elvis isn't crooning, he's declaring. The pop on the mic adds to that aggression. It's the sonic equivalent of a punch. It sounds like his frustration and anger are so intense that they are physically hitting the microphone. It adds a layer of raw, uncontrolled energy that a cleaner take would have lacked. The engineers at RCA, trained in the smoother sounds of the era, might have been tempted to discard it. But Steve Scholes, the producer, had learned from Sam Phillips that energy trumps perfection. The pop was a happy accident, a flaw that made the performance more powerful, more believable. It was the sound of pure, uncompressed attitude. Number 16, whose voice is that in the background? During the $1 Million Quartet session on December 4th, 1956, a largely impromptu jam session at Sun Studio, something amazing happened. Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and Johnny Cash were all gathered around a piano, singing gospel and country songs. The engineer, Jack Clement, had the presence of mind to roll the tape. The recordings are loose, informal, and filled with chatter. On their rendition of the gospel standard Peace in the Valley, you can hear more than just the four famous voices. You can hear them talking between verses. You can hear Jerry Lee Lewis's piano stool squeaking. You can hear someone, probably Elvis, saying, "That's good, man," after a particularly nice harmony. These are not professional recordings. They are full of what would normally be considered ruinous flaws, background noise, talking, inconsistent levels. These recordings were never intended for commercial release at the time. They were a fluke. But their value lies entirely in their flaws. The chatter and the background noise transport you directly into that room. You are not listening to a finished product. You are eavesdropping on a moment of pure, joyful creation. The flaw of hearing Elvis encourage another musician or hearing them laugh at a missed note is what makes the recording so precious. It demystifies these larger-than-life figures. They are just a few young men who love music, hanging out and singing their favorite songs. The producer's decision years later to release these tapes as they were, without cleaning them up or editing out the mistakes, was a brilliant one. They understood that the noise, the talking, the imperfections, that was the music. Number 15, why does his voice quiver like that? In the Ghetto was a major record for Elvis in 1969. It was a socially conscious song, a story song about the cycle of poverty, which was a huge departure for him. He recorded it at American Sound Studio in Memphis with producer Chips Moman. Elvis felt the weight of the song's message deeply. He reportedly worked on the vocal for hours, determined to get it right. Listen to the very end of the song. He sings the final line, and his hungry baby cries. As he sings the word cries, his voice is thin, fragile. There is a noticeable quiver, a tremor in his vibrato. It sounds like he is on the verge of tears. It's not a full-throated, powerful note. It's a note that is about to shatter. This is a masterful piece of vocal acting, or perhaps it's not acting at all. An engineer could have seen that wavering note as a weakness, a sign of a voice losing control. They could have asked for another take, where he hit the note with more power and stability. But Moman and Elvis knew that the power of that final line was not in its strength, but in its vulnerability. The quiver in his voice conveys a profound sense of empathy and despair. It's the sound of a man so moved by the story he is telling that his own emotional control is failing him. It's a flaw that communicates more than a perfect note ever could. It makes the song's tragedy feel personal. You don't just hear the story of the baby crying, you hear the storyteller's heart breaking as he tells it. Number 14, is he singing or is he breathing? From his earliest recordings, Elvis used his breath as part of his vocal performance. In the polished pop world of the 1950s, audible breaths were often edited out or minimized. They were seen as a sign of poor technique, a noisy interruption to the smooth flow of the melody. But at Sun Records, there were no such rules. Listen to Baby Let's Play House from 1955. It's a frantic, hiccuping, sexually charged performance. And it's full of breath. You can hear him gasp for air between lines. The breaths aren't quiet or hidden. They are part of the rhythm. They are percussive. They are the sound of excitement, of urgency, of a man who can't get the words out fast enough. The sharp inhale before he spits out a line is as much a part of the performance as the note that follows it. Sam Phillips knew that these flaws were essential. The sound of Elvis's breathing made the music feel alive, human, and slightly out of control. It was the sound of raw energy. It transformed the singer from a distant, disembodied voice into a physical presence in the room with you. You can almost feel his chest rising and falling. It gives the music a visceral, bodily quality that was shocking at the time. Removing the breaths would have been like trying to take the sweat out of rock and roll. It was the sound of effort, of passion, and of a performance that was happening right now. It was real. Number 13, why does he start the song twice? The album From Elvis in Memphis, recorded in 1969, is widely considered one of his best. It was a return to his roots, a raw and soulful collection of songs. On the track I'll Hold You in My Heart Till I Can Hold You in My Arms, the released take begins with what sounds like a mistake. The band starts the intro, but it's a little shaky. Elvis sings the first word well, then stops them. You hear him say, "Clearly, let's start it over, fellas." Then you hear him count the band in 1, 2, 3, 4, and they launch into the song for real. This is a classic studio flaw. It's a false start. In almost any other context, this would be edited out. The final master of a song is supposed to be the finished, polished product. You don't leave in the sound of the artist telling the band they made a mistake. But producer Chip's Moman left it in. The decision to keep the false start was a statement. It pulls back the curtain on the recording process. It says, "This is not a piece of pop artifice. This is a group of musicians in a room working together to get it right." It adds a documentary-like realism to the track. It also establishes Elvis's authority. He's not just a singer, he's the leader in the room, in complete control of the session. The flaw makes the performance that follows feel even more authentic and immediate. You've just heard them stumble, so when they nail the take, it feels like a genuine achievement. It's a small, humanizing moment that makes the listener feel like they are right there in the studio, witnessing the magic as it happens. Number 12, what is that mumble at the end? Where Elvis often ad-libbed vocally, especially at the end of a song during the fade-out. These were often whoops, hollers, or repeated phrases. But sometimes they were something more intimate. At the end of I'm So Lonesome, I Could Cry, from the Aloha from Hawaii concert in 1973. As the song fades, you can hear Elvis mutter something under his breath. It's not entirely clear, but it sounds like, oh Lord. It's quiet. It's almost lost in the mix. It's not a performance. It's a private utterance, a personal reaction to the song he has just sung. The song, a Hank Williams classic, is one of the saddest country songs ever written. For Elvis to sing it live, in front of 1 billion people via satellite, and then to end it with a weary personal sigh to his maker, is incredibly revealing. The engineer could have easily faded the song out a second earlier, cutting off the mumble. It is technically an extraneous noise. A vocal flaw. But leaving it in provides a moment of profound insight. After the public performance is over, after the last note has been perfectly sung for the global audience, you hear the private man. You hear the weight the song is placed on him. The mumble isn't for the audience. It feels like it's for himself. It's a heartbreaking final thought on a heartbreaking song. The producer who mixed the live album understood that this tiny, almost missed moment was a glimpse into Elvis's soul, and it was more powerful than any loud, clear note could ever be. Number 11, did he forget the words to his own song? During the informal sit-down segments of the 68 comeback special, Elvis was relaxed, funny, and spontaneous. He was jamming with his original band members, Scotty Moore and DJ Fontana. The set lists were loose. He was calling out songs as he thought of them, during a performance of one of his biggest hits, Love Me, he momentarily gets lost. He sings, "Treat me like a fool, treat me mean and cruel, but love me." And then he pauses. He can't remember the next line. He looks at his bandmates, laughs, and mumbles, "Wah, what's the next line?" before someone feeds it to him, and he jumps back in. This is a performer's nightmare. Forgetting the lyrics to one of your most famous songs on camera during your big comeback. It's a major flaw, and yet it's one of the most charming moments of the entire special. The producers made the brave choice to leave it in the final broadcast. Why? Because it was real. It shattered the image of the flawless, pre-packaged Hollywood star and replaced it with a human being. His mistake and his laughing, self-deprecating reaction to it was endearing. It showed that he didn't take himself too seriously. It also demonstrated the incredible pressure he was under. The moment of forgetfulness reveals his nervousness, his humanity. Instead of making him look weak, it made him look more confident, more relatable. He could make a mistake, laugh it off, and keep right on going. The flaw became a moment of connection with the audience. It showed them that the king was back, not as a perfect icon, but as a real, fallible, and infinitely more interesting man. Number 10. Why is his voice so far away? The master take of Blue Moon, recorded in 1954 at Sun Studio, is one of the strangest and most haunting recordings of Elvis's career. His voice is ethereal, ghostly. It floats over a minimalist backing of acoustic guitar and bass. But what's most striking is the sonic quality. His voice sounds distant, as if it's coming from another room. It's saturated in a strange, otherworldly echo. This sound was the result of Sam Phillips's experimentation. It was not the standard upfront vocal sound that was common at the time. A proper recording would have placed the voice front and center, clear and direct. Phillips instead used his famous slapback echo in an extreme way, creating a vast, cavernous space around the vocal. Some might have considered this a flaw, a mix where the voice was too wet or buried in effects, but Phillips knew what he was doing. The song is a lonely, desperate plea to a moon. The distant, echoing quality of the vocal perfectly captures that sense of isolation. And Elvis doesn't sound like he's in the room with you. He sounds like he's alone in a vast, empty landscape with his voice echoing off into the darkness. The flaw of the unconventional vocal mix is the entire point of the recording. It's a sonic representation of the lyrics. It's an early example of using the studio itself as an instrument, not just to capture a performance, but to create a mood and a world. The strange, distant sound is what makes the recording unforgettable and deeply unsettling. Number 9 is that a sob or a high note. In 1977, Elvis's health was in a visible and tragic decline. His voice, however, could still produce moments of astonishing power and emotion. During one of his last televised concerts, which would become the TV special Elvis in Concert, he performed a cover of Unchained Melody. He sat at the piano, playing and singing himself. He was overweight, sweating profusely, and clearly unwell. His performance of the song is difficult to watch, but impossible to turn away from. His voice is thick, and he struggles with his breathing. But when he gets to the song's climax, the soaring line, "I need your love," he pushes his voice to its absolute limit. The note he hits is not clean or pure. It is a raw, desperate cry. It cracks, it strains, it sounds less like a singer hitting a high note and more like a man sobbing in despair. The producers of the television special could have edited this performance out. They could have used a different song or tried to fix the vocal in post-production. They chose to air it as it was. The vocal is deeply, painfully flawed. It is the sound of a voice and a body failing. But in that failure, there is a terrible, heartbreaking beauty. The cracking, sobbing quality of the note is more emotionally devastating than 1,000 perfectly executed high notes. It is the sound of a man pouring the last of his spirit into a song. The flaw is not a mistake in the performance. The flaw is the performance. It is a document of his pain, his defiance, and his enduring, almost superhuman ability to communicate emotion through song, even at the very end. Number 8. Why did he hit the microphone? The song Jailhouse Rock, recorded in 1957, is pure sonic aggression. It's meant to sound tough, dangerous, and chaotic. The session was at Radio Recorders in Hollywood, a studio known for its bright, punchy sound. During the take, you can hear more than just music. You can hear artifacts, noises, and a general sense of barely controlled mayhem. At one point in the song, there is a distinct, sharp, thwack sound. It's not a drum hit. It sounds like something or someone hitting the microphone stand or even the microphone itself. It's a percussive, non-musical noise. It is, by definition, a studio flaw. It's the kind of sound that would normally cause an engineer to stop the take and reposition the equipment. But it was left in. Why? Because it adds to the illusion of the song. The song is about a riotous party in a jail. It's supposed to sound chaotic and violent. The accidental sound of something hitting the mic fits the scene perfectly. It sounds like a stray punch, a falling chair, a moment of real chaos in the middle of the manufactured chaos of the song. It adds a layer of cinema verite, a sense of gritty realism to the track. Lieber and Stoller, the producers, were masters of creating these little sonic vignettes. They understood that a bit of dirt in the recording, a flaw, like an accidental noise, could make the whole thing feel more authentic and exciting. It wasn't a mistake, it was atmosphere. Number 7. Was that note meant to be flat? Elvis had incredible pitch control. He could sing complex melodies and harmonies with ease. However, he sometimes used slight deviations from perfect pitch for emotional effect, a technique common in blues and country music. A blue note is a note sung or played at a slightly different pitch, usually flattened for expressive purposes. Listen to his 1956 version of Blue Suede Shoes. The song is a statement of youthful defiance. It's all about attitude. When Elvis sings the line, "You can do anything, but lay off of my blue suede shoes," his delivery is a sneer. On the word blue, he doesn't hit the note dead center. It's slightly flat, almost lazy. It's not a mistake of pitch. It's a deliberate choice. A vocal coach might have called this a flaw, an error in intonation. But it is the very soul of rock and roll. The slightly flat, blue, note gives the line a nonchalant, rebellious swagger. A perfectly pitched note would sound too nice, too trained. The imperfect note sounds cool. It sounds like a guy who doesn't care about the rules, musical or otherwise. It's the sound of a curled lip. Producers like Sam Phillips and Steve Sholes understood that this kind of expressive flaw was what separated Elvis from the polished pop singers of the day. It was the sound of a new attitude, and it was far more important than technical perfection. Number 6, who is he talking to? Many of Elvis's live recordings from the 1970s include his spoken introductions and interactions with the band and the audience. On the 1972 album, as recorded at Madison Square Garden, before he launches into Polk Salad Annie, you hear him talking to the band. He gives them cues, calls out to his guitarist James Burton and his drummer Ronnie Tutt. His voice is informal, full of backstage jargon. Including this kind of chatter on a live album was not standard practice at the time. Live albums were often heavily edited to present a seamless, perfect concert experience. The goal was to remove the flaws, the dead air, the unprofessional moments between songs. RCA and producer Felton Jarvis chose to leave many of these moments in. The flaw of hearing Elvis direct his band serves a crucial purpose. It establishes the reality of the performance. It reminds you that this isn't just a record. It was a specific event in a real place with a group of musicians working together in real time. Hearing him call out, "Play it," James, makes you feel like you're part of the inner circle. It's a glimpse behind the curtain. It also showcases his musicianship and his role as a band leader. He wasn't just a puppet singing to a prearranged track. He was in command, driving the show. These moments of seemingly unmusical chatter are in fact essential to the music, providing context, energy, and a powerful sense of you are their reality. Number 5, why did the tempo suddenly change? The Sun Records version of Bill Monroe's Blue Moon of Kentucky is one of the most important recordings in music history. The story is famous. Elvis, Scotty, and Bill were struggling to find a B-side for That's All Right. During a break, Elvis started fooling around, singing the slow, mournful bluegrass waltz at a frantic, almost manic tempo. Sam Phillips stuck his head out of the control room and told them to do it again, so he could get it on tape. The resulting record starts with Elvis singing in a high, lonesome, reverb-soaked voice, loosely approximating the original's slow tempo. Then, after the first verse, the song abruptly kicks into high gear. Bill Black starts slapping his bass, Scotty Moore comes in with a rockabilly guitar lick, and Elvis lets loose. The sudden, jarring shift in tempo is a massive structural flaw if you're judging by the standards of any established genre. It's two different songs stitched together. This flaw was the invention of a new genre. It was the moment rockabilly was born. The audacity to take a sacred bluegrass standard and rev it up like a hot rod engine was revolutionary. Sam Phillips immediately recognized the power of this mistake, this spontaneous act of musical disrespect. He didn't try to smooth out the transition or make it more logical. The shock of the tempo change was the whole point. It was the sound of the old world crashing into the new. It was a flaw so profound that it changed the course of popular music forever. Number 4. Did he clear his throat on purpose? On the intimate, raw, unplugged sessions of the '68 comeback special, the microphones were extremely sensitive. They picked up everything: the scrape of a guitar pick, the squeak of a chair, and every nuance of Elvis's voice. On the recording of That's All Right, you can hear tiny, intimate vocal sounds that would never make it onto a polished studio album. Just before he starts a verse, you can hear him do a quick, quiet clearing of his throat. It's not loud or distracting, but it's unmistakably there. It's a natural human sound. It's the kind of noise singers make 1,000 times during a performance, but it's almost always edited out, considered a flaw, a piece of biological noise that gets in the way of the pure musical signal. The director Steve Binder and the producers made the decision to present these performances with minimal editing. They wanted to capture the feeling of being in that small room, sitting at Elvis's feet. Leaving in a small flaw like a throat clear was part of that philosophy. It enhances the intimacy of the performance. It's a reminder that this incredible voice is coming from a human body. It grounds the god-like performer in physical reality. It's a small detail, but it contributes to the overall feeling of raw, unvarnished honesty that made the '68 special so powerful. It wasn't a mistake, it was evidence of life. Number 3, why does his voice crack on the word heart? The song Don't was a 1958 hit for Elvis, a slow, tender ballad written by Lieber and Stoller. It's a showcase for his sensitive, crooning style. The vocal performance is controlled, gentle, and full of nuance. On the master take, during the bridge, he sings the line, "If you think you can't hold out, and you think you're gonna cry." He follows it with, don't let your heart break. On the word heart, his voice, for just an instant, breaks. It thins out and cracks on the high note. It's a classic vocal flaw. A crack in the voice is a sign of losing control, of the vocal cords not quite doing what they're supposed to do. A producer could have easily asked for another take to get a cleaner, stronger note, but the take was approved and became the hit record. The reason is simple. The flaw is emotionally perfect. He is singing a line, begging his lover not to let her heart break. And as he sings the very word, heart, his own voice breaks. The sound of his voice physically mirrors the emotional devastation he is trying to prevent. The crack is a moment of pure unintentional genius. It conveys a vulnerability and a sincerity that a technically perfect note never could. It sounds like he is so invested in the emotion of the lyric that his own voice is overcome. It's a tiny, heartbreaking accident that makes the entire song feel more true. Number 2, what is that paper sound? During the marathon recording sessions for his 1970 album, Elvis Country, I'm 10,000 years old, Elvis was learning a lot of new material. He didn't have every lyric memorized. In the studio, he would often sing while reading from a lyric sheet held in his hand or placed on a music stand. On the released version of I Washed My Hands in Muddy Water, if you listen closely on a good sound system, you can hear a faint rustling sound at certain points. It's the sound of paper. It's the sound of Elvis turning a page or shifting his lyric sheet. This is a quintessential studio flaw. It's an extraneous noise, a non-musical sound that has bled into the vocal microphone. It's proof that this is a constructed performance, not a seamless, organic one. Standard procedure would be to do another take or try to, gate the noise out of the mix. But producer Felton Jarvis often favored feel over technical perfection. The faint rustle of the lyric sheet does something interesting. It grounds the performance in a specific time and place. It gives you a mental image of Elvis in the studio, focused, working, reading the words as he pours his soul into the microphone. It adds a layer of documentary reality. Rather than shattering the illusion, it creates a different, more authentic one. It's a flaw that says, this is how it really happened. This is the sound of a man at work. It's a small, intimate detail that makes you feel closer to the process of creation. Number 1, can a whole song be a flaw? In late 1973, Elvis was in a dark place. He was divorced, increasingly isolated, and struggling with his health. He went into Stax Studio in Memphis to record, but the sessions were difficult. On one occasion, he recorded a song called Hurt. It's a song of epic, almost operatic self-pity and pain. The lyrics are about a man who has lost everything and is wallowing in his own misery. His performance is astonishing. He throws his entire being into it, his voice soaring to incredible heights and then dropping to a whisper. It culminates in him falling to his knees to repeat the final note, a theatrical gesture of complete surrender. The song itself, in the context of his life, can be seen as a flaw. It's not a rock song. It's not a tender ballad. It is a raw, unrestrained, almost embarrassing display of pain. It's a man famous for his cool, his swagger, his control, performing a song about having absolutely no control at all. He sounds histrionic, overwrought, and completely, utterly sincere. Leaving this performance as it was, and indeed releasing it as a single, was a choice to embrace a flaw of a different kind, an emotional flaw. This wasn't a cracked note or a background noise. This was a man laying his soul bare in the most unflattering light imaginable. The flaw was the complete absence of his usual cool facade. He wasn't trying to be the king. He was just a man named Elvis, and he was hurting. The producers in RCA could have steered him toward more upbeat, commercial material. Instead, they let him record his pain. The recording of Hurt is a heartbreaking document. It's a flaw in the carefully constructed myth of Elvis Presley, and it is, for that very reason, one of his most powerful and honest moments. It's the ultimate proof that, in his music, the cracks were where the light got in.